So Saturday morning, there's my good buddy Dewey Freeman sitting there
Morning, sir.
like this. I'm going to do this, sitting there just like this. Mr. Freeman, good morning. I'm Mark Sylvester. This is the Elder Council.
Good morning.
Wow. How are you?
I am good. It's been quite the morning here, so in a good way.
Yeah, that's quite the morning. Quite the morning here. It's we're just coming off of the 2 weeks of rain. Doesn't look like we've got rain for another several weeks. And we got drenched here, and it was just a lot of rain. It was fantastic. We needed it. I'm curious, was there any rain left by the time it got to Colorado?
About 2 nights ago, we got a few snow flurries. That was it. We haven't had rain or
Okay,
snow for
well,
probably 5 or 6 weeks.
we can't go that long. I mean, we go when you say 5 or 6 weeks, for us it'd be 5 or 6 months. We just it's a desert climate here, so we're fortunate. Listen, I've been I've been really thinking about. I kind of want to dive in because I've been really thinking about as elders, and you think about what is that skill, if there was one skill that you wish you had been taught when you were young, just one, what would it be? Now, just park that because I want you to think about it for a second. Because this is how I challenged myself yesterday for my Sunday essay. Um,
Okay.
and I just wanted that challenge because if I think about all the skills I want to learn, it was overwhelming. I should probably write a book. So I got it down to like, what's the one thing? And I'm curious let's say, by 20, you think either you would have liked to have learned or you think people should learn or know. And I'd like to have a discussion about that.
I'm open to that. I might need to sit on it a little bit as we talk and let it sort of percolate. What
So
skill?
when I look at the kind of the pantheon of skills, hard skills and soft skills and interpersonal skills and psychosocial skills and civilian skills and um, like knowing how to wrench something, how to fix a thing, financial skills, how to manage a checkbook or manage your Apple account or whatever. When I think about the skills, and I try to build a kind of a database of that because it's just I don't know why I'm so fascinated with it, but I'm clearly fascinated with it. And then I started thinking, well, of those, if we were to look at our I have grandkids that are, late teens and gonna be, they're young men now. What does society expect of them? What do they expect of themselves? What do I expect of them? What does a boss expect of them when they come in to work? Like you should have
Mhm.
these things laid out already. What should we expect of a 5-year-old that gets dropped off at preschool, or kindergarten, pre-K, those kinds of things? And then what should we expect of our leaders? And I don't mean political leaders, I mean leaders inside organizations and bosses and managers and the levels of that stuff. And I'm fascinated with it because I think that the onus is on parents for sure, then teachers, then the workplace, and how much of it is, I think, is probably all on us. But do we take charge of that? Like, Is there like a little checklist that we have that says, "Oh, hoops, I'm supposed to know how to balance my checkbook or my account, or I'm supposed to know how to do a job interview, or I'm supposed to know um, how to take care of just like own my own health care." I have this feeling that we're kind of on our own and that we don't
We're
have a
on our
checklist.
own to learn how to do those things.
Yeah, and that there isn't a checklist, and there are, and maybe it's just me being a boomer. I don't know, but I have a strong feeling about this. Yeah,
A strong feeling about learning certain skills, or a strong feeling about,
I have a strong feeling that we are sending our kids out into the world and we kind of kick them out of the nest and we hope they make it.
mm,
Like birds, they fly and I don't need to go get in all the animal analogies, but I as a hippie growing up in the 60s and the 70s and having my kids in the early 70s, and then being a parent through the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, and them moving on. Um, I was really aware of stuff that I felt they needed to know to be citizens, right? There's a Baratunde Thurston has a show called How to Citizen. And I don't think we know how to citizen. I don't think we know how to be an employee out of the gate. It's just like, yeah, go figure it out. Good luck. And maybe that's just a fact of life and I should get over it. But I think as an elder, there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation about these things and say, well, could we exhort the Gen X or the millennials, maybe it's the millennials who are having kids now, just say, hey, they're probably paying a lot more attention. I don't know. There's a lot going on in my brain, as you can tell about this.
well, are you talking about skills, or are you talking about more a process of being?
I think a process of being would be categorized as one class of skills.
Yeah, I wouldn't see it that way, but
That's why I love our show. So let me
so
say the
what?
thing that I settled on, and
Yeah,
let's see if
please.
that helps. So I thought about it long and hard. What is the one skill that is neglected, in my opinion? And that's being able to look people in the eyes.
Mm. So talk a little bit more about that piece.
So
I mean, like,
that's so that was my essay was really thinking about that and figuring out what did I mean by that. And the reason it is right now it's part of the conversation because in improv you hard people hardly ever look at their scene partner. They're looking around, they're looking down, they're not looking.
mm,
And so our coach is on us about that. And we're all pretty good about it, but he will have us, we walk in the scene and just look at each other. Like really look at each other and react to what you see because it's all here.
hmm
And when you don't know where to go, just look at the person. And so I've been fixated with this for a while now. And I noticed in our Tuesday class, which is kind of white belt, yellow belt, green belt, um, it's hard, and you have to call it out. Like Kimberly has to call it out. Look at your partner. Look at your partner. And I started looking back, and it was when I started in hospitality, 19 as cook. I had to look at the person who's ordering, or look at the waitress who's ordering, to make sure both of us have our full attention right now, because I don't want to miss what you said about your order. Oh, I didn't hear that. I want to connect with you. Hospitality to me is making a connection with the person. And whether that's in front of the house with patrons, or it's in the back of the house with my crew, this I knew, like, there's a lot going on right now, buddy. Everything's swirling around. I need you to do this. Do you got me?
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned early on, but I feel like I was the only one who was focused on that. And then at Wavefront, when I would go, and because I was the one who would go sit with clients after they'd been trained, and I'm sitting, how I want to see, like, enough of the software now that you're pushing it, and I want to see and hear how you're pushing it. I had to be 1,000%. I didn't have to be anything. I chose to be 1,000% present and look them right. Just make sure they knew I was paying attention and they were being heard. And then in martial arts, you were taught, like, look into the soul of your opponent, right? Through their eyes, and you're like, lose track of that. And then in improv, the same thing. So as I was forced in my essay to look back, like, when was I aware of that? That's kind of the chronology of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a bunch of research. I said, well, for sure, I'm not the first person who thought about this. And I think I cite 26, 28 sources that I looked at to say, oh, yeah, there's a ton of work on this. And there are tons of recommendations to parents to, look at me. Like, you can teach your kids really young, because they know this right when they're born. They're looking up, they make a connection, and then that starts to go away. And so if I were to say and I will, the next time I talk to my grandsons, I teach them a handshake, because I like meet a lot of people. I want to have a good firm handshake and look me right in the eyes. People are not comfortable we're not comfortable looking at each other in the eyes. We're just not. We can't hold a gaze. So, I mean, I think I'm good at it, but I don't think people are good at it in general. That's my whole essay. People don't have to read it. I just said it.
Would, when you asked the question initially, I thought of a number of different things.
Okay.
Would you be open to expanding the eye gaze to the concept of making contact? Because I think eye gaze, or
Um,
eye is only one of the ways that we do that.
yeah, and talk more about that, because I think that's a higher order skill. I mean, you're a Jedi master at that, right? Right. You because you can do all that, just just standing there being, Obi-Wan. Um,
Thank you.
what is what is that? How does that manifest itself? So if you were to say that to someone, how would it manifest itself?
Well, thank you for asking that. There's been a lot of, over the years, um, one of the core foundational pieces of attachment, of relationship, of um, problem solving, of all of those kinds of things is based on the concept of contact.
Mm.
And what you're talking about is you're incorporating two or three of the main ways that we make contact. For instance, with uh, making literally eye contact. And when we put out our hand to shake somebody else's hand, there's physical contact. The definition that I started off with, and then in working, Kimberly, my partner, and I, and this is majorly with her input, have shifted it a bit. So let me share that, what we've come up with. It's a present, which you use that word a lot in what you were talking about, like being present. The next part of that is attuned. So it's
Okay.
actually taking in what's happening for the other person as well as what's happening
Yeah.
to for us. Moment in time.
Okay.
So because what we generally do is make contact for relatively short periods of time. I mean, if you go into a meeting and meet somebody new and you stare them in the eye for 3 minutes, they're going to be pretty damn uncomfortable. So
Right.
this also feeds into, and I don't know that we're going to have time here, but it feeds into how we work with horses and how we work with nature too. So a present, attuned moment in time where our physical, emotional, energetic, and or spiritual boundaries touch another.
Mm.
So um, and I can give 1,000 examples of that. And the like one example is shaking hands, looking somebody in the eye. Another example might be if you and I are working on something together, is literally standing side by side. It may not be looking,
Hmm.
making eye contact, but we're making emotional and energetic contact, and maybe even physical contact. Another example would be, and I will remember this literally the rest of my life, when you were out here for my birthday, and we have a little gnome that fell out of that we
Say,
embodied.
don't let anything happen to the gnome.
Don't
Care
let
for
anything
the
happen to
gnome.
the gnome. And this poor little gnome accidentally fell out of the seat of Kimberly's truck and onto the ground. And Kimberly was quite upset. And what did you do? You were the one that was there. You literally walked up to Kimberly. I wasn't there, but I believe that you put your arm around her or touched her back or something. So that kind of contact. And then you spoke to her. And I mean, one, you were very kind. But the other piece that you said, which was sort of changed everything, was things go well or we have a story to tell, which changed all of the energy around that. So it wasn't only a physical, emotional kindness, it was there was an energetic shift in that. So then the whole incident turned into something that was funny. And we still laugh about it. And we have little pictures of her little broken off legs laying in the gutter, and just we have fixed her little legs, and she still guards our front door.
Oh, good gosh. She was on the injured reserve list for a
Yeah,
little while, right?
exactly. But what you did was create a level of contact on like three or four different levels, or depth of contact. Let me say that differently. A
Yeah,
depth of contact on three or four different levels that in, I don't know, a period of maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know how long all of that lasted, maybe five, that changed everything. But it was the contact that changed it, not you were not down and trying to pick up her little broken off legs and fixing it. You actually made contact with Kimberly, and an incredibly kind, supportive, deeply friendship, deeply friend in a deep in a way that reflected the depths of your friendship with each other. And so that's a
Hmm.
skill that eye contact and a handshake, those things are incredibly important. And from my viewpoint, that's one of the ways that we make contact. If we can literally begin to expand that into all of the different possible ways and integrate those ways, that would be the skill that I would say we need to learn how to do that.
So so that expands on it in a such a great way. So how how ha, have you ever considered teaching that, or is it something that you observe that happens and someone has that? Is that like a nature or nurture thing?
Well, it actually is a nature thing because when babies are born, that's what they seek. One of the big pieces is it's called eye gazing, where babies do that with us. But when that happens, there's a bigger sort of aura around that, an energetic aura and a oftentimes physical aura because we're holding our babies. And you mentioned earlier that that quote goes away. So we have it to begin with, and then the teaching part that comes in, the societal part is actually we teach not to do it instead of allowing that to progress. And people will probably say, well, how do we teach not to do it? And it's like, so when a little baby, say a toddler, falls and skins their knee, and you go, you're okay, get up,
Mm.
or we end up saying bad boy or bad girl or those kind of things. We're literally breaking contact in that. The other piece that happens is that if a parent doesn't know how to make contact, even if a child, an infant is seeking it, what will happen is that the infant will actually close down because after a certain period of time, they give up.
And therein lies, I think, the seed of a whole bunch of stuff. And again, this is why you focus on attachment and attachment theory and
Right.
all of that. And I think because when you can't do that, that's why I think that's this skill, your the ability to connect, make connection. To your point
Exactly.
of the different ways is is really the bigger thing. So I'm going to write about that next week.
Well,
But because that's exactly it. And right now, it's exacerbated by this,
yes, 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 yes.
right? And this isn't a bash the phone thing, but I think that people feel like they're connected, oh man, I've got all these friends and I connect and I talk to like, what do you mean I'm not connected? Well,
Well, the way that I would put it is when we're trying to quote connect through electronics, which is part of what you're
mhm.
saying, my suggestion would be that that's a two-dimensional connection,
Okay, okay,
literally on a flat
yeah.
screen, and not a three-dimensional connection. What's really interesting to me is, I mean, you and I've spent, I mean, you live in Santa Barbara, I live in Golden, Colorado, so we don't get that much time together physically with each other, but we've had many times where we have, and that can carry over. So when we see each other,
Hmm.
what's the very first thing we do? We look at each other,
Hug.
we walk toward each other, give each other a
Yeah,
gigantic hug.
yeah,
Many
yeah,
times we both are a little teary because we miss each other. So
yeah.
there's a whole energetic feel there. And when we spent time together, I mean, we're like super, super, there's a ton of contact, there's a ton of connection. Um, and that three-dimensional contact and connection, we can hold that in our bodies, even though, like right now, for instance, we're two-dimensional because we're on Zoom.
So there's a half-life, if you will, and there's a kitty over my
Yeah.
shoulder who's like he wants to commune. He's trying to make contact with the fish.
Yeah.
They
And they
love,
were playing with each other in the background there.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
a way that they're making contact with each other. So
Right.
there it is. We're and I never quite know the right word because I will say oftentimes designed, and then like I have a very good friend who's a major super high level genetic evolutionary biologist goes, no, we're not designed, we've evolved. And so I don't know quite what word we've to use. Um, we're made, we've evolved to the place to where contact, connection, relationship, and intimacy is what we long for. And that contact that you and I are talking about is the building block of all of the rest of those things, which your cats in the background are doing right now with each other.
They have mastered it. It's so fun to watch them.
Yes.
Um, it feels like this is a like an 8 hour conversation, and it's what you teach. Um, I want to just as we kind of come to the end here, I want to kind of challenge people to think about that, how they connect, how they're contacting, what are they doing. I love the physical, the energetic, the spiritual, the eye gazing, like all of those things. What are we doing? Just let's just observe it in ourselves first, and then
Absolutely.
if you have kids, um this interesting conversation to have with the kids. That's like probably a whole nother thing. Like how do we, like, I think I, it's an important skill to be aware of and to practice and work on, sharpen it, be good
Yeah,
at it.
absolutely.
Um, because it helps in the work, like it helps in your relationship, it helps in getting jobs. So I did the research I had was 63% of uh, hiring managers will not hire the person who can't hold their gaze,
That's a big deal. That's really big.
right? So if you don't have the skill, you're not going to get the job. Um, that one really shocked me. There were a lot of big shocking moments that the researchers have found.
Hmm.
about the inability to do these things. So
Absolutely.
I would kind of on a one person, probably no, you're an ally here to kind of call this into being and say, hey, just civilians, people who aren't Obi-Wans in the world, pay attention to this. Hey, my friend, I love you. This is another one of the great conversations.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I love you also. And maybe we can talk about in a future um, show, maybe we can talk about what people do to inhibit contact.
Ooh. Okay, my friend. Hey, to everybody out there, have a happy Thanksgiving.